Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. I am so excited to introduce you to my new friend on today's episode of Productive Joy. Today, we have Teri Chilcoat. So Teri is a clarity creator. She is an author. She is an HR expert. She's a human guide. She also is a dog mom to Mia and Chloe. She is a yogi, used to be an instructor, still practices. And she is absolutely obsessed with puzzles. And today, she's our guest on Productive Joy. Welcome, Teri.
Thank you so much. This is so exciting to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun for sure. And I am so excited for you to get to tell your story and to help all of us figure out how to survive a toxic workplace. But before we dive in, people by nature are going to get bored. And so what would you say to them in like 30 seconds or less that would make them go, oh my gosh, best episode ever?
One thing that's definitely a takeaway is, regardless if you feel like you're stuck in your life, that you always have options.
Oh my gosh.
That you are never in a position that you can't make a choice for where you are right now.
So Teri, you live in the HR space, right? So you have lots of letters after your name, which indicates lots of certifications around human resources. And you, I'm guessing, deal with people, the humans in the equation.
Yes.
And I think everybody listening, right, one, deals with humans, but two, is looking for ways to make that interaction better. So what advice would you have for our listeners that, I mean, you just said we're not stuck, right? But what advice would you give them if they do feel stuck and they do feel like, this isn't where I want to be?
That's a really good question, because a lot of people feel like it's either this or that, and that there's so many possibilities in between, and it's being open to what other things you could possibly do. I know a lot of people financially, they just can't quit, and I get it. But is there something you could do? Is there a hobby you could do? Is there a passion that you could pursue outside of work? Is there something maybe you want to get a degree, maybe you want a certification? What is there some skills that you want to build up? Maybe it's Excel, maybe it's, some type of Microsoft suite, something that will help make you feel like you're moving forward. Because what happens when we get stuck, we feel like I don't have any options. But there are a lot of options and there are a lot of possibilities. And it's just creating a roadmap to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to stay? Do I want to find a new job? But doing it from a place of a rational and calm mind. So you're coming from a place of clarity.
Well, that sounds really simple, but I'm going to guess that's not always easy.
Of course not. No,
definitely not. So you kind of wrote the book on it, right? So this super cute book that I got in the mail a while back, Surviving the Toxic Workplace. You've got some sitting behind you too. Okay, here's what I loved about your book. I always start with the table of contents. That's kind of what they tell people to do, right? And what I circled, I don't know if anybody's watching can see.
Yep.
From chapters 4 to chapter 8, it was all about self. And I talk a lot about the difference between your sphere of control and your sphere of influence, right? So I say your sphere of control is this teeny tiny little hole right here. But your sphere of influence is unstoppable. And that, to me, is what jumped out about the book, is that it's all about your sphere of influence. You can only control you. So talk to me about the fact that the bulk of your book is about self, but we're talking about toxic workplaces. How does that go together?
So what happened is I found myself in a toxic workplace and I didn't have any resources. So I tapped into, as myself, what resources do I have internally? What can I do to better my situation? So I feel like I have self-control or empower myself to handle the situation when I don't have maybe HR is a resource, or maybe I don't know what I should be doing with the situation. Maybe it's just I don't like my boss and I need to find something else. So at the end of the day, your ability to realize that you're 100% accountable for your own actions is where that self-empowerment comes from. Is if you hold yourself accountable for whatever happens, then I have the freedom to figure out, how do I want to react and how do I want to move forward. And that's through that self-care. But the first part is self-awareness, is being aware as how am I showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of us are pretty not self-aware, right? I think
100%.
we feel done unto. You hear
Mhm.
that a lot. Well, my boss did this or my so-and-so did that.
Yes.
But we have
Yes.
to give them permission to do those things.
100%. Yep. I'm going to give you my power now.
Exactly. Here's everything that you need to make me hurt. Congratulations, right? And then we expect them to be kind with it. And that's just
Yes.
how
Yeah.
these things go. So I mean, we laughed, but it's so
No.
unbelievable.
Yes.
You also mentioned, bosses and leaders, and we're talking to leaders, right? Leaders who want to create more productive joy, who want to
Yes.
create spaces where people want to be instead of where they feel like they have to be. And so what I am hearing from you that I appreciate is that we have to control our controllables. We have to think about what we're doing.
Mhm.
But people don't quit jobs. They quit people, right? They walk away
Yep. Their manager.
from the humans. So
Mhm.
in your book, it clearly is for me, right? Like it's for us internally.
Yes.
But if a boss were to pick it up, what would they learn? Maybe that toxic boss.
Yeah. No, and I think that's I don't think people set out to create a toxic workplace. I think it's 100% a lack of training and a lack of self-awareness internally and externally. When you look at how managers are promoted, most of the time it's like, here's the raise, here's the reports, here's the processes. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have 10 more people reporting to you, and we're not going to give you any tools on how to manage people.
No.
Best of luck. Good luck. Godspeed. But you wonder why they feel miserably, because one, majority of the time, they are not even aware how they're showing up and how their team is interacting. And it becomes a afterthought of, oh, you mean I have to communicate with them constantly, like check in with them? Oh, I didn't sign up for that. That was not what I wanted to do. So it's helping them with the self-awareness is, how am I showing up for my people? Am I carrying my face to where everyone looks at me and goes, oh my God, you look like you're really mad at the whole world. But most people are like, you're mad at me, because we take things personally. So it's stuff like that is helping managers, through this self-awareness, but then also self-control, the EQ, where are you handling situations where you're not losing your mind in a meeting and screaming and yelling and throwing things? How do you show up when things are tough? How do you show up for your team? And that's about self-control too. And without self-control or self-awareness, that's where managers just go horribly wrong managing people.
Yeah. Can it be taught?
100%. Self-care and self-control, 100%. It's like working out. You got to start out. It's painful to build that muscle. But yeah, I believe 100% it can be. But you have to be willing. You have to be open and curious. You have to be open and curious. If you're closed off and think you're Mr. Know-it-all, no, forget about it.
So I had a guest not too long ago who talked about the power of we. He had been a CEO of several very high profile organizations, and he was a jerk. He admitted, I was a jerk. And then he decided he actually quit, and for 11 days was unemployed. And then a company reached out and wanted to hire him. And he realized he needed to approach it differently. And that's where his idea of the power of we came from. And I think there has to be a breaking point, right? There has to be a point at which he woke up and said, oh, no, I am not doing this right.
Yeah.
And I have run into self-aware leaders who can say that. And I've also run into those who everybody around them saw it, but they certainly didn't.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those employees who are faced with someone who isn't self-aware, and that's the person that's leading them? What can they do to lead up to help that person recognize? Because I agree with you. I don't think anybody wants to create a toxic work environment. I really don't. But people do.
Yeah. It really depends on the relationship that you have with the person. If you know that they're grumpy, but they have a soft heart, is there a way that you can talk to them about how they're approaching something? But if this is not a relationship that you have with them, then you have to manage how you react to that person. You have to take it for face value. Okay, I know when he sends that email, it's going to be gruff and it's going to be painful. But it's not about me. This is him, and I'm not going to own that baggage. That's all on him. And then understanding do I want to continue working with this person, or do I want to transfer another department or find another job if there's no one that's willing to work with him or address the issues that they have? Because a lot of times, I mean, there's some people that are, oh yeah, we know Bob is a nightmare to work with, but he's a great manager. He makes a lot of money for the company. So we're going to excuse his bad behavior. Yeah.
That's what creates a toxic work environment.
Exactly.
I feel like this is a cycle, right? Oh my goodness.
100%.
Well, I love that you have taken your extra letters after your name and your, SHRM certificate, all the things.
Yeah.
And you have put them into text that somebody can pick up and learn from. Everybody doesn't take the time to do that. So thank you for choosing to share your brilliance in that way. And I bet you've learned some things and seen some things, experienced some things. Yes. Do you have a story that you think people would relate to that you could tell that might give us a little peek into why this works?
Well, it goes back to self-awareness. In the book, I wrote about how I realized, even though I didn't have the resources, that I could be part of the problem too, because I'd be part of, gossiping with other people about the manager or about the company, and found out that, one, it wasn't doing any good and it wasn't helping my situation. In fact, it was just making me feel worse about it. And number two, it was just counterproductive. Like, what can I do if I'm that unhappy? What can I do to make it better? Do I want to stay or do I want to move on? Because focusing on the negative never brings around change. You have to have action towards a plan to move away from what's negative. And that includes like the toxic or dysfunctional situation. I mean, sometimes it's just changing your perspective that can change the entire narrative of how you see the situation. So if your boss is going to come in and shut the door and won't talk to you all day, why are you letting it bother you? That's them. If they're not interfering with your job, be grateful. Okay, that's how they're going to roll. And it's just how you show up and decide if you're going to allow it to, disrupt your life because of something as simple as that.
Yeah. So, fun fact, my husband, we have a painting in our bedroom. It's just one that we got at Home Goods, nothing exciting. Yeah. But about, I don't know, a year ago, he took a hot pink paint, like paintbrush and paint, and wrote "Do Better" on this piece of art in our bedroom. And I came home from a trip. Said, "Sir, not sure I understand. Like, what are we getting at here?" And for him, in his childhood, he actually had a teacher that used to write "Do Better" on everything. And it was kind of this mentality that he had grown up with.
Okay.
Should always be doing better, right? And in his mind, that was a positive. And I'm like, "Sir, not a positive. Like, no, that maybe we rethink that." But for a year, it hung in our room. And tonight, this evening at 5, and we're now at 6. He said, "Can you come in here?" And he asked me, he bought new paint and he had a paintbrush, and he said, "I'd like you to mark out "Do Better." I should probably mention my husband's handwriting is deplorable. And when he did this, it was also really poorly written. And he said, "Will you please mark out "Do Better" and write "Be Grateful"?" And I was like, "Oh." Now, he's been doing a lot of self-work and he's been really learning things. But what you just said triggered in my brain. The grateful part is what allows us to see the things that are still, they're there even if we're not looking for them.
Yes.
It allows us to see the things that are good, and the whole thing, I have a job and I do enjoy what I do, or I do have income so that I can have this hobby or whatever it is. And so I guess for the listeners, I'm encouraging you not to write on your walls, but to think about the difference between being told to do better or being told to be grateful, and which one you want to do.
I actually put in the book, and the line is, for my self-worth, I said, "Thank you for allowing me to see that I want to be treated better." Because I thought like all of these things are happening to me, but it's like, if I acknowledge that, I deserve to be treated better, then I'm taking back my power, and I'm acknowledging that I'm not okay with this. But I'm grateful for the acknowledgement that I deserve better. And I think that's where a lot of people sell themselves short, as they become the victim. But when you say, "I'm grateful to know that I have value and I'm worthy of being treated better," then you're not the victim anymore either.
Yeah, you're the victor, right? There's a big difference. Oh, Teri, wow. Okay. So now that we've had all these revelations and we're very much on the same page with all of this, I have to ask you my favorite question because I think that this is kind of what you're personifying by what you've written, by what you've chosen to do in your career. But every guest that I've had on for all of my episodes have been asked this question, and everybody gets their own answer. So if you had to describe productive joy, what comes to mind?
That's a really good question. I love that you ask it because it really makes you get out of your head of the day to day. And productive joy to me, honestly, is being able to bring the word of awareness to others and to help, like that aha moment that people get. That's just so much joy, is when I get to see leaders or employees that just, they light up and they look like they have hope. They feel like they actually have a way forward. And that's always been my goal in anyone I communicate with, is to be able to have that connection and help them somehow better their day.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so fun fact, and I'm saying this out loud because it will hold me accountable, right? I am in the process of writing a new book, and I haven't landed on my title yet, but it will have productive joy in it because ultimately what I'm going to do, you are, I think, like episode 280 something, and every single guest has given me an answer. Everyone has been a little different, but there are right? And my goal is to create a book that allows people to take those themes and decide what they want to do. Right? And so you just added a great one. And I think what I appreciated most about yours is it is that aha moment. There's that joy in the discovery. But you very specifically said, I like to help others see it. It's not for you about your personal joy. You take joy when others are
the act of service. The act of service, for sure.
So how do you help others create it? How do you help that happen?
It goes back to puzzles. I help people solve, like, I don't see it and I can see it. I have this innate ability to see a problem and be able to break it down into digestible pieces that are easy for people. And I think that's why the book resonates so well, is it's digestible, it's simple, because it's a very complex situation, but I'm able to break it down so people can understand what's happening, but give them tools that are actionable, that you don't feel like you don't have any options.
That's your unique genius. That's beautiful. And you're leaning into it and you're giving it away, which is really special. So how would somebody find your book, Teri?
It is available on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, Balboa Press. But they also can get a free sample of the first 2 chapters if they text POWER, POWER, to 33777, and you will get a free copy in your email.
Fun as that. What a great idea. His little teaser. Well, I can tell you from having a copy myself that it is not only digestible, like you said, but it is broken up into practical, right? Like, so it's not just that it's in chunks, but it's in chunks that are practical and that I can use right away. So kudos to you. That's hard to do.
Thank you.
It's hard to create something that others can relate to just as much. You know, you're supposed to make the reader the hero, and you're that guide on the side, and that's very much what you did.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
So I know you've worked in the HR space for the bulk of your career. I had my first experience with the SHRM as a entity. I got to present with a dear friend of mine at SHRM Talent, and then we are going to get to present to the national SHRM, like with Oprah Winfrey and
oh my gosh, congratulations!
No, we are beside ourselves. We're like, oh, this is happening. Okay. Obviously, we're not sharing a stage with them, but we could kind of say we are. I don't know.
Yes, I would.
Yeah. But tell us, so for those of us that are not in the HR space, when you think about human resources as a whole, what is your main goal as the HR space? And then how can we all recognize we have that resource? Because I don't believe that people lean into what you do like they should.
I know. Unfortunately, all you have to do is read LinkedIn, and HR is majority of the time they're just bashing them. And it's really sad because I know, yes, there are bad apples, There are bad apples everywhere in
Every
accounting.
department.
Yeah, I mean, it's not isolated, and that's one of the things I talk about in the book is this is not isolated to toxic environment to HR fixing this. This is a company-wide initiative. It's not HR only. It's really by individual. I always prided myself on being that HR person that people could partner with, that could collaborate and be a resource, not somebody to run from. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of even executives and leaders are like, oh, HR, they're just paper pushers. They do payroll, they do benefits. They don't really lean in. And unfortunately, it's a really tough time to be in HR, just even from COVID going forward and all the challenges. And there's still a lot of bad misnomers about HR. And like I said, there's still bad apples. So it's really hard to find really good HR people. But I mean, when I go to the STRM, the Dallas chapter and everything, there's just a great group of people.
Yeah.
And they have the best intentions and want to help people.
That was by experience, right? Because I was in a room of thousands of them. And what I discovered was there was a kindness there, right? Like just a genuine desire to help the humans. And I think, well, I mean, that's what I have given my whole life to. It's helping the humans. So I wanted you to have the opportunity to kind of tell us, hey, we're not the bad guys, right? I mean, I know The Office didn't help because Toby was kind of a dweeb, right? Unfortunately. But then Holly redeemed us. It was okay.
Yeah, but I mean, HR is never, given a great light in any type of book, movie, or whatever. I mean, they're always casted as, the villain in the sense that, oh my God, you want to go to HR.
Not true. Not true at all. Well, you know what? You are delightful, Teri. And I think that if people gather nothing else, then we know that you bring a lot of joy and light and life to the world. And you've created this fabulous book that allows people to recognize that they have more agency over not just themselves, but their work environment than they might realize. So I encourage you all to go out and get her book and recognize that even if you don't work in a toxic place, toxic environments are things that you can control. You can at least influence, right? You can control yourself. You can influence those environments. So I do have some rapid fire questions for you, Teri. Would you be willing to answer them for me?
Of course. How exciting.
These are so fun for me and, and it's kind of all about me, right? So first question, speaking of, what is your definition of fun?
My definition of fun, anything that feels childlike, with just free spirit, just joy, bliss that, I can get that from a puzzle, going to the beach, collecting shells, going hiking, just experiencing nature, just being yourself, not just be.
Just be. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I live a mile and a half from the beach. You would think I would be there all the time. But I know, right? But my husband and I have tried in 2026 to go more often, right? So we go sometimes for the sunset, and it's always peaceful to watch people collecting shells. I mean, my daughter loves to do it. Her and her best friend spend a lot of time with a shell bag on their shoulder. But there is something therapeutic about getting to decide, okay, this one, right? Like this is the one. And I think that means
100%
myriad of things.
Yep. Probably goes back to puzzles.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And a puzzle of shells. Maybe we should do a shell puzzle. That would bring it all together. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
When I'm 100% present. And I think that's one of the things about being self-aware is, am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I stressed out? Because if you're not aware of those things, you're not going to show up authentic. You're not going to be able to connect.
Nope. Okay. Love it. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Lots and lots of grace. Because you're going to have those days. And I think that's one of the things that we really are bad as being human beings is giving ourselves that grace. Like, you know what? Today I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, this last question is going to be tough because you were a myriad of information, all kinds of different pieces. And I think the biggest takeaways for me is recognizing that what we do does impact others, but we also have the agency to decide what happens to us. But People by nature will only hold on to one major idea in a 30-minute conversation. And so you get to pick, what do you want the one thing that people really hold on to be today?
I would say that no matter what your circumstances are, you can have a peace of mind through self-control.
Yeah.
And no one can take that from you unless you give over your power.
That part. Okay, so listeners, she dropped all kinds of gold. The biggest one being that you are in control of this and you get to decide if you're going to hand over your power. So hold on tight and recognize that you get to be the self in the self-control and the self-awareness and the self-care. All of those things, that's you. So listeners, the most important part is that you can't walk away from this without doing something. Because if you didn't do something with this information, then Teri and I just had a really great conversation that you got to be privy to. And what's the point? So I need you to figure out a way today to take that information and turn fun into action.